When the doubt gets loud, but answer that call. Vision ain't real till you grind at speed, so breathing deep. Then call the damn leads. Call the damn leads.
Hey, welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drewbie Wilson. With more than 2 decades in sales, I've seen it, been through it, heard about it. Now I'm bringing it to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community. Because let's be honest, this is the greatest job on earth. It doesn't matter where you come from, what background, what personality type, you can make an amazing life in sales. Today's guest, someone who's definitely had some experience on that journey, Mr. David Aferiat. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Drewbie. Thanks to be here. It's a pleasure.
I appreciate you being here, and I want to jump right in, man. What's your crazy sales story?
Crazy sales story. Well, my crazy sales story, frankly, is just having sold the FinTech software company that I co-founded and the software that we were innovating on that helped people trade on the stock market. We were licensed and sold to E-Trade, TD Ameritrade / Schwab, and Interactive Brokers. And each of them kind of played off of each other, and each of them required a whole ton of effort. And then when it happened, it required the whole organization. It was never just like, hey, sales and then revenue. It was like, hey, sale, and oh my gosh, we've got to transform the whole company to swing into what the needs of these larger companies are compared to where we were at our initial stage, how we got there, and how it catapulted us into a 20-year run.
You know, what's always interesting about that I've had experience in, and working with some of the small to medium sized businesses, is if you had 100 customers show up at one time, it would be likely to break your business. And so I would be really interested to know more about, like, as you had to make that shift and it's like, all right, we've got to really get this thing ready to scale. Like, what were some of like the biggest pieces that you really focused on as far as like internally? Was it the systems and processes? Was it the people? Where did you really go from there?
Yeah, I'm so glad you were going down this path, because this is more in line with what I do now. I was only doing instinctively, back then, just to like tame the tiger, and that we had caught by the tail. But this could be the same as if, there's a lot of people who do government contract work. And if you are in the channel and you're pursuing the government and you land a contract, I mean, you land a $5 million contract with the government. If you're a $5 million company, congratulations, you just doubled your business. In fact, every time you do double your business, you break the company. You have to assume that everything is broken and you got to redo it again. So that's always been in my mind when we were first out there hitting the pavement and trying to get these enterprise licenses. Just a quick backstory was, this was early in the century, and I was like pounding the pavement on Wall Street, talking to every person that had a capital, in their name, and going to say, hey, look, this is a tool to help your clients, your employees trade in the markets, going to these institutions. And this was at a time where there were actually still human beings on a trading desk, focused on, organized in many different ways, sometimes by market cap, others by like, hey, you get A through G, you get H through K, whatever it is. But by the month and almost day and week, they were being slashed and cut, because this was when the first wave of automation and data were coming through, and our tool was part of this. But even if I wound up investing 6 months into like a UBS or Merrill Lynch, I would only get this was only for maybe 20 or 12, licensed seats. And I'm like, this is killing me and it's going nowhere. And but I kept at it until I finally dawned on me that, what, this is not where the volume is. The volume is with retail brokers, where one decision maker can affect tens of thousands of people. So let's go to that one decision maker. And that was much better than our efforts to date, which had been selling this. We still had a subscription business one-on-one, but you have a tiny megaphone, you're trying to boil the ocean. We still went to let's go to one-to-many, and starting that relationship and everything we could do landed us, firm was Scottrade before it was taken over by TD Ameritrade and then Schwab. And then about, 8-9 months later, playing that off, we got the E-Trade license. And all through it, it's software. So we were somewhat, flexible and able to adapt. But it certainly changed the way we do customer service. It certainly changed the way that we had to devote more resources to the research and development and product innovation, because those relationships and those partnerships were on an annual basis, and we made them go, 10 years each, consecutively being called on the carpet to say, hey, what are you doing for us again? And so we had to show the value and so forth. But doing all that changes the organization. And yes, it's about process. Yes, it's about building out, staffing up to accommodate what you're attempting to now build. And as it accelerated the revenue, we wound up having to rechange, relationships and rechange the org chart and think through every facet of what this larger scrutiny and larger opportunity had given us.
Yeah, and that's one of the fun things about these conversations that I get to have is that, in sales, the journey is long and far and wide, and it can kind of be whatever you want it to be. And also, the more you learn along the way, the more you have the experience of the failures and then the giant wins, and you keep riding that train. If you stick to it, you have passion, you're really disciplined, you can do some amazing things. And so I know I heard you say you exited the FinTech company. Like, what did you decide to do once you had kind of taken that idea to fruition, and then having, I'm going to say freedom, but like the opportunity to make new choices and take new paths in your life?
Yeah, I talked about I belong to a group of entrepreneurs and a peer network organization called Entrepreneurs Organization, EO. It's a global network, and there are chapters in every city. And I would encourage your listeners to learn more about it, as it greatly impacted me as a co-founder about how I grow the business. And it's given me, tons of value that I've given back by serving as the chapter president I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I also chaired a global learning conference, a 3-day conference that we brought to Atlanta last year under the theme of perseverance. I say all that because when I had to go through this transition, your identity is anchored in everything that you did to grow this business for 20 years, and now you're doing something different. That transition has got to be managed. And for some, I've seen some entrepreneurs that don't handle it well, and I've seen others that do. And I took a bit of self-reflection and I gave this speech actually to the chapter, but it all boils down, I'm going to share it with you in just one sentence. And it's really about, we're better served in our lives if we anchor our identity, not in the roles we play, because they come and go and they're transitory and, they change, but rather in the values that we live by. So if I'm a co-founder today and I transition away, like, well, what am I now? If I'm even a father to 2 girls, right? And a father when raising children is different than a father with kids off to college. And so it's like, well, okay, that's different. And each time it comes back to, all these shifts that we go through can be disruptive. But if I just look back at the path I just walked and all those decisions I made on it, the values start to come. It's not like in a company where you're marketing and you're trying to think of all these. In fact, with my clients, I don't even do any of that. We forget the stuff that's on the website. It's all about what are the values that you've used to make decisions in the past. And then when I'm working with clients and we get into this particular work, it's about how would you make this a filter? What values would you filter in order to hire, promote, or ultimately even fire, somebody if they violated one of these things? And those become like the real values that no one else sees on the outside, but that's how you grow, and change organizations and grow culture. To some extent, that's what we did. That's what we did in my my previous firm. But to your point, we had highs, we had lows. If I had the kind of caliber coach that I am now, growing CEOs and leadership teams back then, when I was just poking around and testing these things, we would have gone a lot farther, a lot faster. But
yeah, that's one of the things that I love about the mindset behind the growth, right? Because you have to kind of like step away from who you are to become who you're meant to be. And it boils back down to, how do you continue to influence and essentially sell the individual that you're working with on the idea that they can accomplish the things that they want to accomplish. They can figure out the problems that they're going through and be able to do so based on making decisions that come from those core values, right? How do we operate from that so that we can make those decisions?
Man, okay. We're talking about the juicy stuff now. I love it. Drewbie. You're asking the right, I love where this is going. I mean, this conference that we shared last year, and it had the theme of perseverance. And that's a loaded word that means a lot to me. And let me unpack it a little bit here. Perseverance, as we kind of normally know it, is like something, if not negative, it means like this huge effort. You arrive at the finish line exhausted and crawling over the finish line kind of thing. That's not the way we define perseverance for these 500 CEOs that came in to learn last year. Instead, we defined it as, look, perseverance is a positive, better, future version of yourself, your team, your company. And the daily rituals that you commit to, that you curate, designed to get you to that future self, is perseverance. So how you curate a daily routine and how you build the vision for where you want to be, if it's a year, 5 years, 3 years, 10 even. And this is how I've lived my life. This is how we grew, the company. Even before I had the words to really, to know this. This is what we built the conference on. This is what I also work with my clients on. And that is, let's design this better version of ourselves working as well, but in terms of where this company wants to go. And then we get to what the daily commitment is. And guess what that turns into? Like, okay, the weekly to-dos that I have to do, the weekly meetings that we're going to have that don't suck, but how do we structure our time in meetings according to a real specific agenda that allows for some headlines, to-dos, like are we on track, off track, with some quarterly priorities. And then about a 90-minute meeting, and then about 45 minutes of it is like, okay, idea lab. You've got some issues. In this group, we're going to come up with the answers. When I work with clients, it's not about coming in as a consultant where I have the answers or I'm an expert. No, the answers are in this room. And if we're not getting to them, it's because there's something else here at work. It's either head trash in some of the leaders' heads, or there's some unspoken things that need to be cleared and resolved between siloed, departments that are unwittingly or wittingly competing against each other. Like I see this all the time in sales and marketing, trying to take credit in front of the favor of the CEO or the founder. I also see it in HR and legal. Like, don't tell me what to do. Well, we got this employee. If we don't do this, then we're going to get sued. So it's a dynamic that I work to say, look, this is how we all lean in. And we lean in by kind of building this kind of circle of trust, this psychological safety. People in EO would understand this as kind of like what we do each month in forums among peers, are like mastermind groups, if you will. But to bring this into companies is and to facilitate how those bridges get built is for me that's what I love doing now.
That's the stuff that you nerd out on.
That's the stuff. It's the dynamic, because we're all here. We're not wasting time, and why not serve something greater than ourselves? But, we all benefit from it. You mentioned before about like, how does it, what does it take to drive according to core values and such? I had a toothbrush test because I've led other leaders, right? When we did this conference, when I was the chapter president, 150 members, each of them with their own, businesses, family, and personal lives, I asked to come on and serve on my board for both of those endeavors. And you better believe if someone's going to take their time carved out away from their family, business, and personal life to give something, it's got to be worth it to them. And I would have like what I call the toothbrush test. If I could get you to think about just what we're doing over the course of this year, building a conference or leading the chapter, and I could get in that routine while you're brushing your teeth about, okay, well, I'm going through the day. What have I got? And if I got 5 seconds, I know I would have at least an hour over that week, and we'd move the ball. And so that's why I invested so much in, you could call them core values, but I gave a theme to the year. And our theme for when I led that effort for the chapter as its president was called A Hero's Journey. And it was this idea that like, hey man, our members are the heroes. Everyone in your company is like a hero. And you as a leader on the leadership team or as the owner and founder, you're not the hero, you're a guide. And if you're going to work through your team to get things done, then you surround yourself with other guides. You become the guide of guides, and your employees become heroes. And that point actually hit home for me with drawing a blank on Danny Meyer, who is the CEO of Union Square restaurants in New York. And he always says, look, it's very clear the order that we put things in. It is employees, then customers, and then our investors. Because if we get employees right, they have a halo effect that customers feel and want to come back to, and then everyone's happy. So it's the same thing. Your heroes are not necessarily your customers. They are your team, your employees, and your leadership team are the guides, and you're the guide of guides. Anyway, that's the same model I brought into the chapter, and people were like, yeah, I get it, brushing my teeth. And that's what anybody in a sales effort or anybody in a company wants to know is just answer to 3 questions every day. Where are we? Where are we going? And what's my role in all this? What role do I play? You get them thinking about that, brushing their teeth, boom, you've got something.
I love the brilliance to that, and the simplicity, right? It's like, hey, I don't need your whole day. I just need 5 seconds for you to really think these 3 things and then be focused on it throughout the day. And when you're brushing your teeth in the morning, that's a great time to do it. But really struck me, David, and I'm going to share this with you because I think it's valuable to what you just said, is that the hero's journey, there's a book out there called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Fantastic book. Yeah. This is all about the hero's journey, what you go through as the first hero in that, of like, how do you start your life and go all in on that purpose and that thing that you're meant to do. And within that story, the young boy, he meets several guides who offer him wisdom and advice and point him in the right direction. And it really hit home for me in the sense of, most people, when they read it, it's when they're getting into sales, they're starting their business, they're kind of understanding what that first round of things looks like. But once you've done that, you get the opportunity to go back and be a guide for other young heroes on their journey. And it really just made sense to me in the sense, like, what a fulfillment that is. Like, how much joy we can get out of looking back and seeing someone who's on their journey and saying, hey, listen, I love sharing what went well for me, what didn't go well, how did we fail, how do we, collapse time, in the sense of time is our most valuable asset. You can't buy it, can't win it back in a poker tournament, you don't get a box of it on Christmas morning. Like, we can all make more money, but the time and the investment, I love how you laid out let's just be very structured. Let's make sure that we're guiding these individuals on our team to understand how not to waste the thing that's most valuable, and get them bought in on being a part of the movement, the message, the vision, because they're ultimately the ones that become the customer team. They're taking care of the people so that you can stay focused on continuing to develop the mission and be a guide. Man, wow. I appreciate that. This was awesome.
And the vehicle for all that is often like the meeting, the weekly meeting. So if you can turn that into something that isn't the moment of dread every week, but like people are running to it, and it builds the momentum for the rest of the week. Most, in clients, we kind of set at the beginning of the engagement, what time when do you normally have a leadership meeting? And it sometimes changes when we go through the process I go through, but it's interesting that most leadership teams happen on a Tuesday. And it makes sense. You just kind of come in Monday, get reoriented. And I'd say, just without even me having to say so, 9 times out of 10, the clients I work with, and even other in the community of coaches I belong to, are all like, yeah, it winds up being around Tuesday. So if you're not doing that, think about it. But it is the time to say, okay, we got one day, of the week underway. It helps define what challenges are coming. It helps to say, look, I didn't work over the weekend. We got Monday to prepare for this, and Tuesday we're here. Where are we? But man, I just cannot stand what is otherwise such a waste. And I was guilty of it too, of running meetings that just kind of like ran around in circles, and like, almighty, like, why did I have to be in here? Instead,
then you're having a meeting about the meeting. and it's just a cycle.
Well, and that's a sign of, weak leaders have one-on-ones. You're a stronger leader if you can manage who you need to manage, but done so through the team, because then you start to build, mutual accountability, period. And everyone says, oh, okay, I'm not going to let down the team here. One-on-one, you can get into crazy rationalizations, and depending on the kind of, boss or manager that you are, you can take certain amounts of this, but things don't get rationalized things get pretty clear when they have to be explained in a group.
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting perspective, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I think what's been really fun about this episode has been kind of the different route outside of like sales specific conversations. However, before we get out of here today, I want to ask, because again, as you're setting this up and you're putting all these things in place, you're still essentially having to sell these individuals you're working with on adopting the process, right? Like even moving clients aside, you're selling the team that you work with on how to actually believe in this and take action on it. So David, what do you think is your like sales superpower? What's the thing that sets you apart when you do what you do?
I would say I try to connect, and I'm better if I can connect at scale. And so I'm obviously, pretty effective one-on-one, and the idea of, the limited number of clients that I have and that will bring on are special to me. They mean something to me, or the story that I'm hearing from the entrepreneur is one I'll say like, yeah, and really depending on where they are in the company's growth stage, number of employees and revenues and such, but where they are in their growth mindset. I'm always listening for, do you have a growth mindset? This isn't a cash cow. Okay, we can work. And you've got to be able to think about how changes as you grow and break the company, how your org chart changes, and you got to be willing to make changes fast and do it. The org chart is literally like where the puck is going. That's where you're going to skate to. It's not where you are today, but it's where it needs to be. And then we help push that conversation and the company moving in the right direction. To answer your question, what I do right now is I try to go, I give certain workshops. Sometimes I do them with other, coaches in my community. And we kind of give value first. We just talk about a lot of the concepts we talked about here in a like condensed pill form. we kind of expand, and we kind of go through an assessment. I walk anybody that I eventually am talking with through 8 pillars of the business. It's no science. It's like sales and marketing, find data and finance, process, people, etc. And we do an assessment and we try to figure out, okay, well, where would you score yourself on 1 to 10? And if things are 10, great. You don't need me. If things are 5 and 4 and falling apart and a source of frustration, then it's like, okay, maybe we need to map the customer journey if sales and marketing isn't going well, or the handoff to support teams isn't great. Let's map what that journey looks like. Other times it could be how are we going to use AI? We're not doing AI for just a 20 or 30%, busy work increase. We want 10x what we're going to get by radically rethinking this way. And if we're growing and we're breaking the company, let's build it back again with AI and figure out how we're going to leverage that. But, and again, I don't come in with answers, but I am listening. And then after the assessment, I kind of show like, look, these are tools that we're going to, work with, that your team is going to, jump on. And once explained, the ideas will come fast and furious. I'm here to help with the execution. All of it falls into this, purpose of what I serve, which is I'm here to help simplify things, prioritize them, we execute, and then we communicate how we did it and what we're doing next and what everyone's role is. You get all that, those 4 things, basically. It's not science. I mean, it's not rocket science, but it is science. And you just resonate. If this resonates with me and we vibe, then boom, we have we start something great. And if not, then I point you in the direction where you need to go.
David, I love that, man. And, we could probably nerd out on this for a long time. I can tell you're super passionate about it. I know this is a conversation I love having as I've grown and developed our brand and our movement. And so how do we come find you, follow you, check out more of your content, learn more about you?
Well, the hero's journey continues on my LinkedIn page. I usually put out a couple of posts a week, and one with intention usually on Thursday or on today. And follow me there, and you can also visit. Let's go to LinkedIn. Best place to find me. Here's my name, David Aferiat, LinkedIn. Otherwise, it's just
easy
a website.
peasy.
Yeah.
No, easy peasy, man. Well, I appreciate that. Listen, if you guys enjoyed the show, make sure you share it on LinkedIn. Tag David, tag me. Let us know you spent some time here. You got some value out of it because, as you know, we're both very, very passionate about the value of time. And if you enjoyed this episode and then took a second to share it, it would mean the world to us. If you have a crazy sales story, you want to be a part of the show, or heck, you just want to support the Call the Damn Leads movement, head over to callthedamnleads.com. Check us out. Send us your information. We'd love to chat more with you. For now, you guys know what to do. Go pick up the phone, call the damn leads. We'll see you next week.
When the doubt gets loud, but answer that call. Vision ain't real till you grind that speed, so breathing deep. Then call the damn leads. Call the damn leads.